Let me tell you a story about a girl named Debbie who loved her stuffed doll, dog, and little Miss Muffet. She was always dressing her up, sometimes just for fun. For her fun, not Muffet's. But when Debbie found a strange book on her shelf, an incredible thing happened.
Dog, you're alive! Goody. Where are we, dog?
Tattertown! Tattertown! Tattertown!
Despite being the first network for kids, it took a surprisingly long time for Nickelodeon to really embrace animation. There were animated segments in shows like Pinwheel and Hocus Pocus and Vegetable Soup, and the occasional animated special on Special Delivery, but it wasn't until 1984, 5 years into the channel's run, that they finally started importing fully animated programming with shows like Danger Mouse, Banana Man, and Belle and Sebastian. Of course, making their own animated shows was out of the picture for a long while. They had just barely avoided financial ruin by switching from a good-for-kids philosophy to a fun-for-kids philosophy, and it would be another 4 years before Nickelodeon even considered producing their own animation. We've already talked about 1989's Nick's Thanksgiving Fest, which is the most direct predecessor to the 1991 Nicktoons trilogy. It's the project that brought Vanessa Coffey on board and convinced the network to give it a shot. But the special was actually the second original animation produced by Nickelodeon. For the first, we jump back a year with 1988's Christmas in Tattertown.
Hey, my name's Miles, and I'm just doing what I like best, keeping time with the blues. Before this tune gets too complicated, I realize you folks might be wondering what kind of place this is. Welcome to Tattertown.
The concept is such. Tattertown is a sort of odd purgatory where things go when they're lost and forgotten. When they arrive, they come to life. They're able to talk and move and feel, and here they've built their own little loose, chaotic society where cartoon hijinks reign. There's a certain pre-Pixar vibe in the entire scenario. Our protagonist is Debbie, a little girl who fell into Tattertown with her doll and stuffed dog after finding a mysterious book in the attic. Considering Tattertown is a place for forgotten things, the implication is that Debbie is an unloved orphan character, but the special never really touches on that. When she falls into Tattertown, both her toys come to life. The doll, Muffet, takes to her newfound sentience with glee.
I'm alive. I'm alive. I can talk. I can touch. I can feel. Look, I'm not just a stuffed dolly anymore. I'm my own dolly. Oh, Muffet! I gotta get out of here.
However, Debbie still only sees Muffet as her possession, and despite Muffet's protests, insists on playing with and owning the living doll. Any other time, this would be a story about respecting a person's boundaries and autonomy and personhood, but the special instead frames Muffet as the antagonist, that she's being unreasonable and not wanting to be owned. That's all set up though. The actual plot starts when Debbie is chatting with a little teddy bear named Harvey and discovers that nobody in Tattertown knows what Christmas is.
What's a Christmas?
What? You mean you don't know what Christmas is? With all this junk lying around here, you must have seen some Christmas stuff.
Oh, bite me, Debbie. So Debbie goes around Tattertown trying to gather up any Christmas memorabilia that might have fallen in. She ends up finding a wreath and a Jewish Christmas tree.
How'd you like to be the official Tattertown Christmas tree?
Christmas tree? Hey, what do I know about Christmas? I'm a shopkeeper. I sell comic books. You want to buy a nice magazine?
In the meantime, Muffet's become something of a mob boss, stepping in and taking over a group of lost military equipment and weapons. When she learns that Debbie's bringing Christmas back to Tattertown, she decides to put a stop to it. For her, Christmas symbolizes all the things she hates. Ownership, getting pawed all over. I suppose if every object has a soul, Christmas is like a big yearly slave auction. God, the implications of this special are grim. So Debbie tries to celebrate Christmas, Muffet goes all Grinch and tries to stop it, going so far as to dress up like Santa, only to be upstaged when the real Santa shows up. In the end, Christmas is saved, Muffet ends up back in Debbie's possession, at least for now, and we end with Bing Crosby's White Christmas.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Let me out of here!
Christmas in Tattertown has a certain grody unpleasantness about it, in both its writing and its art design, but that doesn't come as much of a surprise when you consider Tattertown's director and creator, Ralph Bakshi. If you're at all interested in American animation history, then Bakshi needs no introduction. The director of Fritz the Cat, the first X-rated animated film, a number of other politically and sexually charged films like Heavy Traffic, Coonskin, American Pop, and Hey Good Lookin', and unconventional fantasy films like Wizards, Fire and Ice, and the famously over-rotoscoped adaptation of Lord of the Rings, which I'm personally fond of, but I understand the negative reaction towards. In any case, Bakshi is the furthest thing from Disney squeaky cleanness, so how did he end up working for Nickelodeon? While he is best known for his alternative adult animation, Ralph Bakshi did get his start with children's television animation. In 1956, he joined Toons, the studio responsible for characters like Heckle and Jekyll, Gandy Goose, Dinky Duck, and most importantly for our purposes, Mighty Mouse, a pint-sized spoof on Superman. Bakshi started off working as a cell cleaner at the age of 18 and gradually worked his way up to director, which wasn't nearly as satisfying as Bakshi had hoped. We didn't really direct like you'd think. We were animation directors because the story department controlled the storyboards. We couldn't affect anything, but I still tried. I'd retime, mix up soundtracks, I'd fuck with it so I could make it my own. In 1966, Bakshi managed to create his own show for Toons, The Mighty Heroes, a superhero comedy about a band of misfit heroes dealing with a never-ending onslaught of supervillains. It only lasted one season, and Bakshi left Toons, eventually founding his own studio, Bakshi Productions. Toons closed its doors in 1968, and in 1971, the Toons library was purchased by Viacom, who at the time was just a distributor. So Bakshi went on to make his reputation with adult animation, and the Toons library gathered dust for a while. I'm streamlining a lot of this, of course. The Ralph Bakshi story could easily get its own Ken Burns 10-part documentary. In the 11 years between 1972 and 1983, Bakshi directed 8 movies, but soon started running into trouble getting projects off the ground. In 1985, Bakshi was asked to come in and direct the live-action segments of the music video for the Rolling Stones cover of Harlem Shuffle, and while working on that, he met the video's animation director, John Kricfalusi, aka John K. If you know that name, you probably just had an aha moment. Well, Ralph Bakshi and John K became friends, and John was the first person Bakshi rang up when he suddenly decided to get back into television animation.
I say, hey Johnny, I'm gonna start a TV studio. I'm gonna do stuff for Saturday morning cartoons. And I'm thinking to myself, Ralph Bakshi and Saturday morning cartoons? Here's a guy named X-rated cartoons. All right, Ralph, come on over, we'll do it. Next morning, 7 in the morning. Somebody pounding on my door. I went and opened up the door and I'm all like baggy-eyed and everything. It's Ralph. This huge fist grabs me, throws me in the car.
I spent a bunch of years working with John and the guys on some very good stuff. But me and John together were the old guy, the young kid, the X-rated animator doing Saturday morning. Well, there's a lot of selling there that could happen.
So he makes a deal right away with CBS, ABC, and NBC to develop something like 5 different cartoons series each. And then at the end of the summer, they would look at them and decide if they wanted to put any of them into production.
The only kind of shows that they would buy were shows that either were based on toys, like He-Man, G.I. Joe, or based on somewhat known properties in other mediums like the Smurfs or Strawberry Shortcake. Ralph had his development meetings at ABC, NBC. All the shows that he pitched that we worked really hard on and that were funny got rejected. So now he's really mad, right? He's got one meeting left.
Oh, that's a classic. You're not going to believe it. My car was packed with my stuff. I was living in a loft here.
So Ralph and I develop all these shows. They all get rejected. So by the time he went to the 3rd network to get rejected, that was CBS, he's really mad. And this is this huge guy, right? He's 6'3", probably weighs 250 pounds or something. He's super strong. I've seen him pick up desks and throw them. He's a scary man, right? So he's in there screaming and pounding the desk. You guys just like, you only gave us this money so that the other studios couldn't buy the cartoons from us. He's having this big fit, and they're all terrified. All the executives are like, please, Ralph, calm down. So Judy Price, who's the main executive, she says to Ralph, listen, Ralph, calm down. Honestly, here's the situation. We can't buy characters that are brand new. But if you had a character that was a pre-existing character that had marquee value, we'd buy that from you, promise. We promise. We love you, Ralph. So Ralph goes, marquee value? Fucking marquee, you want marquee value? I'll give you marquee value. I got a classic character. And they're all scared, right? Who is it, Ralph? Who's the classic character? And he thinks for 5 seconds. He goes, I own Mighty Mouse. So they go, okay, we'll buy it. Just calm down.
I said I have an idea. Mighty Mouse. And I don't own the rights, but it didn't matter. Nobody owned the rights at that point.
So, desperate to get a television project, any television project, off the ground, Bakshi approached Viacom and asked if he could have the rights to Mighty Mouse. Well, Viacom hadn't done anything with the property in all this time. The biggest thing that happened to Mighty Mouse in the last 20 years was a sketch Andy Kaufman did on Saturday Night Live.
Mr. Crumple never hangs around when he hears this mighty sound. Here I come, save the day. I think the mighty mouse is on the way.
So Viacom handed over the rights, and Bakshi was able to get his new Mighty Mouse show underway. He brought on John Kay and a number of other talents, so a lot of fresh blood that Bakshi could get for cheap, and insisted on a creator-driven, no wrong ideas production. On September of 1987, Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures premiered. This would prove to be a very influential and controversial show, but this is not a video on Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures. What's important for our purposes is that this allowed a bunch of pieces to come together to allow for Christmas in Tattertown. Ralph Bakshi had a studio and a full staff, he had open communications with Viacom, who owned Nickelodeon at this time, and he had a series of pitches waiting in the wings. It's not clear if Tattertown was one of the original pitches he was shopping around the networks, but it is clear that Christmas in Tattertown was a pilot for a potential series, reportedly slated for 39 episodes. Again, Nickelodeon was very nervous about spending money on animation, but with a high turnaround and Bakshi Productions eating most of the production costs, it was decided that Christmas in Tattertown was an acceptable gamble. Having it be a Christmas special was probably key to this. If the series didn't really work out and didn't go into production, at least Nickelodeon would have a Christmas special that they could rerun every December. The idea for Tattertown went all the way back to a comic Bakshi worked on in high school called Junktown, which he tinkered with and revised over the years. By the time he got around to doing it for Nickelodeon, his idea had evolved from Realm of Forgotten Trash to Realm of Forgotten Cartoon Characters? Tattertown is a strange world. What I wanted to do was make something where old and new animation would clash head on, visually, stylistically, and in attitude. Tattertown is where old cartoon characters live side by side with new cartoon characters, and they have a hell of a time relating. The old characters go all the way back to Paul Terry's Farmer Alfalfa. Oswald the Rabbit is there, and Bosco, and they're right up against characters who are modern and can't move very well and have superior attitudes. Okay, I don't know what changes were made from beginning to production till the end, but Christmas in Tattertown is not about old cartoons versus new cartoons. The style of animation certainly evokes older cartoons. Characters move around in the rubber hose fashion of old Disney and especially old Flesher cartoons, but the concept never goes beyond this being a world of inanimate objects come to life. There's certainly no pre-existing characters like Farmer Alfalfa, Oswald the Rabbit, or Bosco. It's possible that Bakshi ditched the idea in production and later refined it for his 1992 film, Cool World, which is also a story about people falling into another world, and this world is explicitly one of animated characters. Also, both Tattertown and Cool World have very similar cartoon spider characters, both voiced by Charlie Adler. This idea of abandoned old cartoons would actually show up more than once in video games. 80% of the people in the credits for this special were Mighty Mouse alums, and it's very likely this special was slotted in between production of Mighty Mouse episodes. The only notable person from Mighty Mouse that didn't work on the special was John Kay, oddly enough, though his connections with Nickelodeon through this would prove to be very important. Come 1991, John Kay got his own show on the network, The Ren and Stimpy Show. There's a lot to say about Ren and Stimpy. That episode will probably be 2 hours long when I get to it, but you can definitely feel the Bakshi influence in that work. In fact, when John Kay revived Ren and Stimpy for Spike TV in 2003, he brought Bakshi in to voice the Fire Chief character. Also, because the comments will go crazy if I don't mention it, yes, that's Keith David doing the voice of the saxophone.
Tattertown is the elephant's graveyard for junk, where all forgotten objects come to rest. But as you can see, nothing rests around here.
I would be lying if I said I enjoyed Christmas in Tattertown all that much. Its premise is distressing, its humor isn't all that memorable, and as a celebration of Christmas, it's not all that pleasant. It doesn't help that the person pushing Christmas on Tattertown is so selfish and unlikable. This is definitely one of those things where the history and influence is more interesting than the product itself. Bakshi Productions, Mighty Mouse and New Adventures, and Christmas in Tattertown represent a change in how animation was approached, stepping away from the toy tie-in cartoons created by corporations to more creator-driven products, shows with clearer visions and artistic merit. While Nick's Thanksgiving Fest was more responsible for the actual production of Nicktoons, Tattertown got to the creative heart of Nicktoons. Nickelodeon ran Christmas in Tattertown every December between 1988 and 1992, and some high-quality recordings have been available in the world of tape trading and file sharing, but no home video release has ever been published. Ralph Bakshi currently retains the rights to the special, and rumors of a potential DVD release have been circulating for about 10 years now, but nothing's come of it. While its entertainment value is questionable, Christmas in Tattertown is an important artifact in the history of animation and the history of Nickelodeon, and for that alone, it's worth a look.
Nick, 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 Nick,
Nickelodeon.
Nick, 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 Nick,
Nickelodeon.